Welcome to the Wellness Revolution podcast.
Welcome again to the Wellness Revolution. Today I have with me an acclaimed author, Sherry Maysonave, Maysonave.com, and I'm going to have her spell it for you as we go along because I like you to make sure that you can find the people on the show. You know it'll be in the show notes. The Girl Who Can Read Hearts is her book, and although it's fiction, it teaches us how to listen to our own intuition and rid ourselves of anxiety. So,
Yeah.
Sherry, welcome to the Wellness Revolution.
Thank you, Dr. Veronica. It's an honor to be on.
So I'm going to ask you again to hold up your book
Okay.
and then first tell us about the book and what led you to write it.
Well, it's a fascinating story. It's The Girl Who Could Read Hearts, and it's about listening to your intuition and the value of that. It's also about reducing your anxiety using drug-free solutions. And there's a character in the book that has high anxiety, terrified of bridges, and she uses drug-free solutions such as nose breathing and some other techniques we'll talk about later to reduce her anxiety. But this book has won 9 awards, and it came to me, it was a gift from a deceased sister. It came to me in a visitation dream. I was actually writing my second nonfiction book, had a contract with a high-powered agent, and I was finding the work a little bit lackluster and tedious. And I had this dream from my deceased sister. She came to me so clearly, so vividly. And during the night, for the rest of the night, these words tumbled through my head. And the next morning, I got up and just hit new file on my computer, and this story began just pouring out.
Wow. And so let's talk a little bit about, you talk to people about intuition, but also drug-free solutions. And right before we went on air, I said, I suggest to people a lot drug-free solutions. And if I post it someplace publicly, people get angry at me to suggest that you can heal from anxiety or depression or anything else without the benefit of pharmaceuticals. So talk about why you're suggesting drug-free solutions.
Well, for one thing, we've become a pill-popping society. We want that easy way out, that quick, easy way out without any effort on our own part. But I think so many times the pharmaceuticals harm us more than they do us good. And I'm one of those people that's sensitive to medication. I suffered very high anxiety for many years because I had not listened to my intuition and had made some wrong choices and ended up in a very toxic relationship. I was chewing the inside of my cheeks till they were raw and bleeding. I was screaming in my sleep. And I don't mean just little screams. I'm talking blood-curdling screams that awoke everyone in my household, including my children. And I sought help from a psychiatrist, and he wrote me a prescription for Ativan. And I was going to go right to the pharmacy and fill it. And I got in my car and I looked at this prescription, and something inside of me screamed, "No, don't do it. You can do this. Don't take this medication. It will hurt you." And the feeling was so strong and overpowering. So I then became inspired to research how I could do this without drugs, because I had to do something. I was at a point where my life was turned upside down. I was turned upside down. I needed help. So I began researching all the things I could do to reduce anxiety, and I was amazed. And in a very short period of time, immediately, I had lowered my anxiety with several practices. And then I began to have actually very low anxiety. And I still do today. And that doesn't mean that my life is free of reasons to worry or reasons to be anxious. Sometimes that's part of life, but that's also the coping skill you learn, is how to deal with all that.
So I want to speak a little bit about it, because you said, okay, so I decided no for the Ativan, and then I figured out what I needed to do to lower my anxiety. Your own innate intuition told you that. So now what I've noticed, even in the holistic field, is we'll say, okay, we're not going to use a drug, but we use a supplement in the place of a drug. So as opposed to figuring out, okay, what else is going on and what else we can do, we say, okay, I'm not using Ativan, but I'll use Kava or I'll use L-theanine. And there is a place for supplements this
Yeah.
way, but
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of people say, well, I'm going to go natural. And natural means that I'm not going to take the pharmaceutical pill. I'm going to take a supplement pill that's not regulated at all. And so therefore now I'm natural, and they don't necessarily work on the deep inner where the anxiety came from in the first place. So is that something that you have noticed?
Yes, I noticed that. And when I talk about drug-free solutions for anxiety, what I used did not include supplements. So because sometimes supplements might disagree with you too. It really, everyone is so individual in their makeup and supplements can be pharmaceuticals in a way. So there are other ways to soothe and ease that anxiety that does not include supplements, anything that you swallow.
Okay, so let's get into talking about that a little bit, about where do people go when they're feeling so awful, because there's the people feel depressed, but the people who are anxious a lot of times become way debilitated before. The people with depression, a lot of them slowly go down, but the people with anxiety,
Yeah.
it really interferes, and people get into having panic attacks, and just everything is a big deal. So where does somebody start? What did you do to start?
Well, I started with meditation and prayer, which I think boosts your hope for life and gives you an outlet for some of those feelings and is calming. I started with limiting my negative news, the news that I watched on a daily basis, and wouldn't read books, watch scary movies. I mean, I read books, but nothing scary, nothing upsetting. For me at that point, I didn't need to read about toxic relationships. I didn't need to read love stories that made me cry my eyes out and long for true love, which, by the way, I do have now. So I started with limiting news and limiting the movies I watched, books I read, and music. Music, new research shows that music affects our neural pathways similar to psychostimulants. And so, I was listening to some sad music and all this love stuff that was just breaking my heart day after day. And knowing I had to make a change, which terrified me. So this sad music was just depressing me, making more anxious. So I began reading about different how music affected our brains and our neural pathways in our body, our emotions, how it stimulates emotion, and started changing the music I listened to. I stopped music with lyrics. I started listening to music with no lyrics and really soothing, soft, what I call spa music that really soothed my nervous system. Was very important to my recovery from anxiety. And other methods too, that were breathing, for one thing, is very important. And right on your face, you can stop a panic attack with your nose, because anxiety creates shallow breathing, and the body will take over and you'll start breathing through your mouth to get more air in. If you're really having a panic attack, first thing you know, you're hyperventilating. So if you start feeling super anxious, close that mouth, just breathe through your nose, and no one in the room even has to know that you're about to have a panic attack.
Yeah, so one key about the breathing that people don't necessarily get. So first of all, women tend to be much shallower breathers than men. And so deep breathing requires you to push out your diaphragm. And so you're going to say, how do I know if I'm breathing correctly? And yes, you can breathe incorrectly. How do I know I'm breathing the maximal way? It's that when you breathe in, your stomach should puff out when you breathe in. It should puff out. And so for people to just stop a second and take a really deep breath where their stomach puffs out, that actually slows down your nervous system. And so people say, well, how's breathing going to help you? Deep breaths, when I tell people, count to 10, take deep breaths, 10 deep breaths where your stomach comes out, it's going to slow down your nervous system, and all of a sudden you're going to begin to feel calm. That's how the body works physiologically. So when you're talking about deep breathing and breathing through the nose and not like that, or
Right.
breathing
Right.
deep, that actually works for the nervous system and is a very, very, that's number one that people can do. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the news detox, because people seem today addicted to the news negativity. So how did you institute that? Because the first thing is, well, I got to know what's going on. How did you institute the news detox?
Well, I wanted to be informed. So I had a schedule. I could listen to 15 minutes of headline news in the morning and 15 at night. And that would, but not before I went to sleep. This was early evening. And I could read maybe some online for 10 minutes a day. I just made myself stop, made myself go to other things. Because right now there is negative news on a constant loop that incites fear and incites anxiety. So it's really important if you're having depression or anxiety issues to institute a program, schedule yourself. You have to schedule your news. Don't let it schedule you.
So people talk about the media being negative and perpetuating everything. So what you're saying, it's not the media, it's you that's allowing it. So,
Yes.
so now, what else did you, let's talk about the music. There's different music on different vibrational frequencies. This has been well studied, and there's music that is very high vibration and music that is lower vibration. So give some tips on how to find the high vibration music. You mentioned spa music. Any other forms of music that you have found that's high vibration that lifts up how you feel?
Well, classical music, I love classical music. I actually love all types of music, but it changes my mood. And so I'm just very aware of the impact that music has upon me. And I say spa music for me, if I need soothing, if I need my nervous system soothed, if I feel like I've gone a little backwards going into fear or anxiety or a little bit of depression, which I've had in the past, I start, I'm not listening to the right music. I'm not reading the right books. I'm watching too much news. And the other thing is I'm not tracking my thoughts. I call it thought tracking, and this is very, very important. I know I'll get back to the music, I promise, but this thought tracking, I call it mind discipline. You become aware of what you're thinking about, because emotion doesn't just happen by itself. It follows what you're thinking. So panic attacks do not come out of the blue. They're a result of what you're thinking about. And our mind is always working, and we're having thoughts that we're not even aware of at times. So if I start getting upset, I think, wait a minute, how did I get here? And I start tracking back my thoughts, and lo and behold, there it is. I had some self-defeatist thought about myself, that I wasn't capable, I couldn't do something, that feeling of powerlessness, hopelessness, or some fearful thought about what could happen. Not what's happening, but what could happen, or worry about what could happen. So that thought tracking is real important. And so I would watch that, and then would be very cognizant of the music I was listening to. And back to those high vibration music, it's not going to be an angry beat. There's a lot of, I like rap too and all that, but you have to really watch those angry beats and those angry lyrics. But music is individual. It's what uplifts me might not uplift you. So it's finding what gets you energized and hopeful and happy or soothed if you need soothing. Because music is so varied.
Yes, it's funny because I think about music, and there's a pop artist that I love her happy music, and that's Taylor Swift. I was like, I don't want to tell anybody I'm a Taylor Swift fan, but I love some of her happy music. I'm just like, it's so upbeat. How could you not like this?
Right, right.
So but I am also a fan, and when I recommend music to people, music
Mhm.
without the lyrics specifically, because I want people to think and feel what they're thinking and feeling, not what somebody else is saying into them.
Yes.
So the more and these different types of music, like you mentioned, yeah, I like rap, and yeah, some of it's good, but I don't listen to it commonly because I
No,
realize that it is angry and lower vibration, and you can measure these things.
you can.
And so I'm just like, well, I'm not going to listen. I can only listen to it for, 2 songs maybe, because then I'm just like,
Yes.
okay, enough, because I can feel my energy coming down. So people have to, and now what do you say to people about the music when they say, well, this is my culture, or I'm just keeping it real? What do you say to people when they say, I'm just keeping it real, and this is my culture, this is what we do?
I say, well, how's that working for you? How's your life working? How are you feeling? And they usually say, not so good. I said, look, culture is just one thing. It's just one part of you. It's not all of you. And if your life's not working, if you're not working, if you're not 100% aligned with yourself, forget that culture. You can love that culture in other ways, honor it in other ways, and listen to some different music that really puts you on a track for health and success and meeting your goals.
So let's talk a little bit about, you said I was feeling bad. I went to a professional. They wrote me a prescription. Talk about the role of professionals and how to identify a professional that's going to work with you on a different level so that you can heal from these afflictions like anxiety and depression.
Well, I want to go back to the psychiatrist that I went to because I gave him a bad rap there with that prescription that I didn't want to take. But I did go back to him and I told him the experience I had where my body, my spirit said no, not to take it, that there were other ways I could do this. And he was like, great. That's one thing we're working with is for you to listen to your spirit. And he said, how about we just do a talking therapy for a while? And we did that. And I did gain a lot of value from that. I really learned to honor myself, and my confidence grew. I now speak to hundreds of people, 1,000 sometimes at a time. And at that point in time, I was shy and depressed and wouldn't dream that I could have done that. So I did gain great value from that work. But I think it's important to work with a professional that will listen to you. And if they're all about that prescription, if they can't get beyond giving you a drug, then they are not the right professional.
So I would recommend to people that they ask that question. If I'm resistant, or I'm looking for other ways to do it besides using a prescription, will you work with me as best possible to not use it? But I also think it's important to work with professionals who are willing to consider it based on the partnership. So there's some people say every pharmaceutical is bad. No, I think it can have its role at a particular time, but it's important to work with a professional that will use it judiciously and also have a plan to help you get off of the pharmaceutical because your body's not craving it. So ask the question up front on what their philosophy is about getting people off of medication.
No, I agree with that. That is an excellent, excellent point. Because there are times that people do need medication, and perhaps there is a chemical imbalance that needs to be corrected. But make sure there's that plan to get beyond that it's not a lifelong journey of medicating. You can self-medicate with music, with tracking your thoughts and other ways to empower yourself.
Yes. So I want to just mention a little bit your website, Maysonave.com, and go ahead, spell it for us.
It's Maysonave, as in Victor, AVE. So Maysonave. And the primary website right now is The Girl Who Could Read Hearts.
Okay. So when you work with people and speak to people, what is the main type of person that would benefit from your type of work?
Well, my work is really about empowering other people and helping them be more successful. I am passionate about helping people reach their greatest potential and finding the greatness within them, because there is greatness in every person. So I work with people on just that, on developing intuition. If they are suffering with depression or anxiety, drug-free solutions for ways with working with that. I also speak on professional dress and body language. In the corporate world, I'm considered a nonverbal communication expert. So that nonverbal is very important, which is also one of the key things to learn about if you are trying to lower your anxiety or depression, how you're holding your body. You know, our biofeedback shows that those shoulders, if you're drooping your shoulders, you're going to start feeling disappointment. You'll start remembering all the things you've been disappointed in. Put those shoulders back, and I don't mean up around your ears, that's when you're scared, but shoulders back, comfortably back, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to be more confident. You're going to see more possibilities for your life. So your own body language, the messages it sends to you and to others is very key into achieving your goals.
Beautiful. So Sherry Maysonave, Maysonave.com, The Girl Who Could Read Hearts,
Yes.
which will give people about how people use their intuition and tools to get over anxiety. A fiction book, so it's going to be enjoyable while you're reading it, I'm sure.
Very enjoyable. You know, story is a tool of transformation also.
Yes, and I think it's important for us to, with our entertainment, to make sure it's something that's going to be uplifting with the entertainment.
Yes.
You know what I've been enjoying lately? I've been enjoying listening books on tape and Westerns particularly. And I've been mesmerized by these Westerns. So every chance I get and I'm getting dressed, I'm doing whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm just out there and I'm somewhere in the West listening to, you know, the cowboy stories.
Yes, getting to occupy a different world for a while, yes.
Yes. So, Sherry, I thank you so much for being on the Wellness Revolution.
Thank you, Dr. Veronica. It was an absolute honor and pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more on how to bring wellness into your life, visit drveronica.com. See you all next week. Take care.